Good afternoon and welcome to CrossRoads on TVI. I'm your host Parthy Kandavil. On behalf of CrossRoads and TVI, we wish all the fathers a happy Father's Day. In honor of this special day, our first segment is dedicated to all the loving fathers out there. Joining us in a discussion will be Ravi, Paramanathan, father of Ravi and Ashwini, Sayanthan, Sivanathan, father of Shaye, Sai Rama, and Dhiva, Balendra, who's hoping to be a father one day. We will discuss what fatherhood means to our guests and their experiences so far. Ideas of fatherhood have changed over the years. This holds true to our community here in Canada. Our second segment will feature two representatives from the Canadian Tamil Youth Alliance, Thebana and Tharmiya, to discuss their upcoming and much anticipated Interuniversity dance competition, Thaalam 2012. To join our discussion, please call 416-623-8100. We're looking forward to hearing your stories about your fathers. If you have lost your father, as I have, please call us and share your favorite memory of your father. Again, our number is 416-623-8100. Welcome everyone to the show. Before we start the discussion, I'd like to start off with a clip from the movie Thebana and Tharmiya.
நாம் பார்க்கையில வணக்கம் சொல்லி நல்ல பாடுவேண்டா அந்த கால படிப்பை எல்லாம் படிக்கதாண்டா பார்த்து அந்த கணக்கு பாடம் தெரியாம பரீட்சையிலே தோத்த அந்த கால படிப்பை எல்லாம் படிக்கதாண்டா பார்த்து அந்த கணக்கு பாடம் தெரியாம பரீட்சையிலே தோத்த நாம் படிக்க நினைச்சதெல்லாம் நீ படிக்கணும் என்னுடைய கவலையெல்லாம் நீங்க போக்கணும் உங்களை பெத்ததே சந்தோஷம் நான் உங்களை பெத்ததே சந்தோஷம் சிங்கத்தை பெத்ததே சந்தோஷம் ரெண்டு சிங்கத்தை பெத்ததே சந்தோஷம் ஒரே ஒரு ஊருக்குள்ளே ஒரே ஒரு அம்மா அப்பா
So the clip was very lovely in that it showed the father's interactions and with his children. So I think one of the most important questions as we think of our fathers is what are one of your favorite memories growing up with your father, or even current memories?
Yes, when I grew up, I remember you said about I'm old school. I'm not old school. I grew up in the old school. I thought my parents' time was old school, right? So because those days it's all tough. Like growing up with father is very tough. He's very disciplinarian. He was in the military, and again he's a very loving father. He provided me everything that I needed, and taught me from ABCs to all the way up to high school, and then he put me where I wanted and back to the military. You know, I joined the military too and became a commissioned officer, and that training gave me or made me a man from a child, from a responsible youth to a responsible gentleman. That's where I went to. So I thank my father, probably watching right now, for doing that for me. That's basically it is. But
the
like discipline and everything else. And always he said something like, you know, I have gone up to wherever, how far, however much I can reach, I have tried to reach. I think I have come to my potential, and I'm going to push you all the way up from there. It's up to you to go way up and push your kids way up. So it has to be no coming back. You have to keep on developing.
Like in the song, the father said, I want you to study, which I haven't studied.
Just to echo what he said, my dad taught me about to be disciplined. And my favorite moments, my dad he taught me so much things in life. I'm being a father too as well. I appreciate what he's taught me every day, and what he has done for me ever since I was born. Like, you know, we live in Nigeria, we came to Canada, and every day talking to him, I realized something new, right? So I appreciate everything he's done for me, and happy Father's Day, Dad.
Dhiva?
Well, I think the greatest thing my dad ever taught me was just smile. And that gets you pretty far in life. I think one of the greatest stories that I can isolate with my dad is when I was a child, I loved to play road hockey. And my dad doesn't know anything about road hockey. But one day in our parking lot, or in our driveway, we decided to go one-on-one playing road hockey. My dad was awful. I was a lot better than him. But it was the attempt, and that's what I always remember. My dad attempting to connect with me, even though we were so different. But I love that. I love that he could approach me at my level, and I could approach him at his level. It was the most beautiful thing.
So all these speak to the importance of the connection you have with your dad. So on that note, like what do you think fatherhood is about? What does it mean to be a father?
I think it's about like every other father, it doesn't, irrespective of culture or where you come from or background, every father wants to have their children, or especially the son, to be like him or more better than him, or whatever he missed or that person missed in their life, they want to achieve it with their children, and that is in there. And but when it comes to me, I don't look at that way, because I want my children to do better, but they are free to think and free to function, and I always listen and guide them and give them choices. But when I grew up, it is not that way. The old-fashioned old way of life is different. Now my father tells me what to do. Now here, my children, I am more free. You know, they can talk to me very freely. There is no one-way communication. They are here. We can have a communication, and you know, that's a big difference, because that's what this old school is about, right? They simply they tell you, okay. So.
And that's an important theme, I think, especially the second generation, our generation, is that you know, I certainly experienced your father lays out certain expectations, and like Ravi and I said, like tells you what to do. Did you find that to be the case?
For me, I think fatherhood is, I think, life's greatest joys, and it's also one of life's most humbling responsibilities. It's also a gift from God, and for you to cherish that, it's very important. And fatherhood, it's something comes from generations as well too. You learn from your father, your grandfather, great grandfather. So it instills in all generations, right? So for me, fatherhood, I want to depict what my father, my grandfather did, and bring it onto my son, and he can do that too for his children too as well, right?
Dhiva, did you find?
Well, I think just building upon the two other speakers' comments, I think the two important components of being a father is that he has to be present. So he has to be there every single day for every solitary experience possible. And then he has to be active. He has to be actively engaged in the child's life, just like these two gentlemen have demonstrated as fathers, and I know my father has.
But a lot of fathers, like especially in like our community immigrated here, there are a lot of challenges, and a lot of fathers, because they want to provide all the opportunities for their children, sometimes they work 2 jobs, 3 jobs to support that. But does that take away from their fatherhood?
No, absolutely not. No.
But you have to sacrifice, because working 2-3 jobs, you're sacrificing.
There's trade-offs.
Because we are second generation, right? Actually, they're the first generation coming in, so we grew up here. So it's challenging for them too as well to understand the culture, the Canadian culture. But for them to try to learn about the culture and try to help us, it speaks volumes, right? So my father came in, had 2 jobs, was going to school, and what he did was he wanted to learn the Canadian culture, and it takes time, right? For us, it's different because we grew up here. So that's the big thing, right? So we're different, right? And they're trying to be like us, right?
In a way. So in terms of that challenges, right? You know, there's always tension in a family. It's part of being a family, right? What was something that, you know, your dad's values conflicted with your own, and, you know, your own aspirations to?
Well, you know, I think the funny thing is that obviously I grew up Canadian. Don't allow the strong tan and the ethnic name to confuse you. I'm very Canadian, whereas my dad came to this country when he was 40 years old. He's a very Tamil man, so there were these clashes, these philosophical clashes. So I remember as a child, my father would tell me these things, and I would think they were absolutely preposterous.
Like what? What's an example? Like
so many things, right? Everything possible, everything possible. But as I got older, and I think as these two gentlemen have demonstrated, you understand your father at a so much more deeper level. Like lucky, and you know this, I'm pursuing the same profession my father has. So I understand everything he said to me. Everything he told me, it makes sense now. And as every day passes on, I understand my dad better than I've ever understood him before as a child. And the thing that I regret is that I didn't understand him better when I was 10 years old, 15 years old, and I think all of us have that regret.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My kids are the same issue. They don't, especially when they are teenagers, they totally don't understand. They think this guy come from some outer space, like he don't make sense. So we relate to how we grew up and try to teach language and culture. We try to teach everything. They listen. They're learning, but they don't want to accept and practice. So that kind of issue was there. But after when they, like the teenage ages passes, when they go to university, they act more responsibly. That because of the bilateral communications we have, very open about things. Like every aspect of life, they talk to us. So that is one of the best things. Like it's like a gift for me. My kids were so amazing. They talk to me everything in private, and that is the best thing.
That communication, communication.
That communication is very important to understand your children, so that you can go from there, and you will be there in their life all the time when they need it. I know, like in some day they will be on their own, but psychologically they need somebody to talk to.
Dhiva brought a question of the Canadian values or Canadian themes, right? What is it in light of that? And we all grew up in our Tamil culture. What do you think it means to be a Tamil father? In Canada, in Toronto, what do you think, Sayanthan? What does it mean to be a father that's Tamil?
It's huge. I think it's Tamil culture it's growing in Canada as well, right? And you want to be there, have the Tamil roots with your children too as well. You don't want to lose that Tamil, the Tamil background that what our parents instill in us, the culture, the way of living, the way of life. It's a way of life, I think.
So what do you think it means to be a Tamil father as opposed to a mainstream? Like, are there certain values we have to embody?
Absolutely. It's being a role model in society, in our community too as well, to help and give, help each other, right? So for me, my parents are Sri Lankan Tamils, and they raised us Tamil. The way of life, Hinduism. We went to church. We went to temples. We went to. We ate on Fridays. We don't eat meat. Like certain things, those kind of culture values. I want to bring it on to my son too as well. On Fridays, go to temple. We don't eat meat on Fridays. Those kind of things, and do good and love all and serve all. That's my main.
And Ravi, what are your thoughts on that? What it means to be a...
I really do not practice the 100% Tamil way of cultural life, because maybe because of the military background I grew up, and my father also in the same lifestyle. But that doesn't mean like I have taught the Tamil cultural ways, but we don't 100% practice. But I try to practice as much as possible. The food practices, I don't really go to the temple and all that. I have given them the choice to choose, like whatever temple you like, whatever religion you like, that's your choice. I'm very open about that. But I lost my thought there.
Okay, on that topic, right? The reason I asked that question, in our Tamil culture, there's a saying, and I, pardon my pronunciation, Thayundan Aru Suve Pom. Tanteyudan Kalvi poem. Then we need to say that if you lose your mother, you're losing the senses of food and food. You lose your father, you're losing education. Do you think that's true in
the sense, like in the olden ways, where when kids are growing up, it's the mother mostly home providing, and the father providing outside, like bringing the bread. I mean, this is the breadwinner, and he's the one who's supposed to be teaching the skills for the children to go out and raise their own family, whatever skills they needed at that time. So these are ancient, very old sayings, but it has meaning in it. Even now, like even if my house, my wife or the mother runs the whole show, and we all love it.
But are those dynamics changing now? Now that most families are both are working, right? Are those dynamics changing?
It is changing slowly. It is changing. Like, because now we're in a Western culture, mother and father both work, both educated. Back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, the father is the educated person, the wife is the, like you said, is the homemaker. So now it's changed. So it takes man and woman both. I think equality speaks. Right, it's huge now. I think you can see even Caucasians, the Europeans, they're single mothers raising the children, right? So both way, I think it works both ways.
Dhiva, do you think the roles of the gender dynamics are changing in our second generation?
Well, I think I can only speak to my family, and I know that my father and mother both worked, and there was a symbiotic relationship. They worked together on paying the bills. They worked together on making sure that my sister and I were educated and making sure that we were provided for, that we had everything. So when I see my father, I see my mother. And conversely, when I see my mother, I see my father. I could not imagine them apart. I see them as one solitary human being that makes me smile and makes me provides everything. And I am anything because of them.
And given your relationship with your dad's growing up, what are certain things that are very important to you to make sure you instill in your children?
Just being honest and giving back to the community, be a role model in the community. As my dad always said, be honest and do good, help people. And if I can do that, my son can do that. It goes on for generations, right?
Almost the same thing. You know, I agree to him, and I tell them the same thing. They are very honest with me, and I know that. But I tell them to be a law-abiding citizen and respect the law, and that's my Bible. So you know, you respect the country that you are living in, and have a decent job. Education is already happening. So next, get a good job and be a decent citizen. And again, one more thing, the family values. If you are responsible for a spouse, be responsible. And the responsibility for the children does not end after having children, you dropping and walking away. I use my life as an example to teach them, and I have told them the values of life. If you're married, that's for us in Tamils. That's one of the cultural practice I still believe in, is for life. I don't believe in, marriage and you have your personal difficulties and problems with your spouse. That doesn't mean you abandon your children and walk away in different direction and, sharing, time sharing. I do not believe in that. I totally against that, because if you commit yourself, the commitment should be there until at least the child is grown up, to be old enough to be on their own
family.
So these are the values I have instilled in my children, and I practice the same thing, and my parents practice the same thing.
And Dhiva, you're aspiring to be a father. You're looking forward to fatherhood. Touch wood. What do you think are the joys of fatherhood?
Well, I think the joys of fatherhood is there's the one very genetic thing, getting to see your own offspring, and the second thing is that I would like to be the same father that my father was to me, and that was someone that was present and active. My father, just building on what they said, the two things that I think my father always practiced with me was being tolerant and patient, because I know I made mistakes. I'm sure that you too, growing up, probably made some mistakes. My father overlooked that sometimes, because he was able to be patient and tolerant with me. And I hope I can exercise that with my kids, because I know there will be times when they will make mistakes. And I know that when they do, I will smile, I will hug them, and I will love them, just like my father did with me.
And Ravi, your children are obviously older than Sayanthan's. How has your relationship with your children changed over the years?
Nothing much changed. There's always, as I told you earlier, that the open communication. Then only time period is when they were teenagers. They're trying to grow up. That's a chemical, I think, chemistry. So then when son growing up, he tried to challenge me. Sometimes, one time I had to physically push him off. That kind of argument come, and when my wife walked right in between. So then I realized, he's grown up to be a man. And then I am looking at the positive side of it. So that is the only time we had little issues. But later I caught on. And then after that, all of a sudden, this guy, he's one of the nicest person, like friendly and talking, and then he's now almost an adult. He's a big man. So even only about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, that's the first time we sat together in the backyard and had a beer. I mean, this first time he had a beer in front of me. So I allowed him, hey, come over a beer, like he was going like this. So that relationship has gradually grown up to, we have as an adults, we have a conversation and decent serious conversations. We always have serious conversation about policies and politics, and he has a lot of ideas, and that way I keep the communication. Again, my daughter also, everything that personal, when she was teenager, nothing comes out of her mouth. We talk everything but nothing serious. But as soon as all of a sudden I see a big change, that she's opening up and talking to me everything that privately, about men and boys, and she had an open conversation with me. I was like sometimes shocking, sometimes I was swearing when I was driving when she talks, and then I adapted to it. Now we are like unbelievable. The relationship is really good because very open, and Dad, she doesn't ask me. She tells me, Dad, I'm going to so and so's place. I'll be back at this time. Okay. So the time has changed, but.
And Sayanthan, based on your experiences growing up, what advice, because your second generation grew up here, what would you advise to parents, or first generation parents watching, what advice would you give them in terms of handling the challenges
just understand them. Like to echo what he said earlier, is to communicate. Communicate with the children is very important. If you communicate with the children, you understand what they're going through. And especially growing up in the Western society, there's a lot of challenges a child goes through, opposing to a child growing up in Sri Lanka or India. A lot of like bullying, a lot of things go on. So you got to understand a child, talk to them, be their friend at first. Let them talk to you, be honest with you. That communication is very important. If you communicate with the children, I think you can learn, understand them more better.
Yeah. All right. On that note, it's time for a break. But thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show. I appreciate it, and thanking your families for letting you come today and share your thoughts on Father's Day on this special day. Dear viewers, we'll be back in a short while. Thank you for watching. Welcome back to CrossRoads. Joining us in the studio are two representatives from the Canadian Tamil Youth Alliance, Thebana and Tharmiya, to discuss their upcoming and much anticipated Interuniversity dance competition, Thaalam 2012, happening next Sunday, June 24th at the John Bassett Theatre from 4 to 9 p.m. Welcome, Dhiva and Tharmiya.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show. So before we go into the Thaalam, give our viewers an idea of what the CTYA is.
So Canadian Tamil Youth Alliance is a federally registered not-for-profit organization. And our vision is to empower youth to become strong leaders in not only in our community but in the society as well. So we serve as an alliance, and we have 52 member groups. And most of them are youth organizations as well
Tamil Youth Organizations.
Tamil Youth organizations as well. That's right. And our CTYA, we have 5 councils so that we can focus on each needs that our society has. And the councils are Education Council. We have our Human Rights Advocacy Council, Athletics,
Tamil Nation Development Council, and finally we have the Arts and Culture Council.
And this would fall into Arts and Culture?
That's exactly. So Thaalam is one of the Arts and Culture Council's biggest events, and it will be one of the biggest events in the summer for the youth as well. So we're hoping to be even more successful than last year.
So when we say inter-university dance competition, is it universities or high schools? Or
it's inter-university and colleges. So
that's right, universities and colleges.
That's correct.
Yeah. Exactly.
So tell us about last year's competition.
So last year was the first year we put together Thaalam 2011, and we had 6 teams participate, and it was a huge success. We had about 1,200 people attending. We had politicians greeting us, and some of them came to watch the show as well.
And what's the purpose, or why is this important?
It's important because as youth in our community, we need an identity as well, right? And by having this in a heart of Toronto, John Bassett Theatre downtown, it gives them pride. They can proudly say, we're dancers, we're proud to do what we're doing, and they represent their talent.
And this venue, it's actually a venue where the G20 happened. So the dance teams are extremely excited to be able to perform at such a venue once again.
Oh, right.
So it's a way for them to be proud that they're Tamil and they get to perform at such a great venue as well.
And last year's winners were?
The York/Seneca Huskies.
And they were able to go to an international competition, which was held in Germany. And they placed second, representing Canada.
And what are the skills, like in terms of performing a quality presentation or dance, what are the judges looking for? Like what are the elements that make a strong performance?
Well, there are many genres, right, in each performance. So what we did was we had segregated them into different genres, and we have highly qualified judges for each genre. So each genre will have 2 judges, and then they'll do their job, obviously. So CTYA doesn't affiliate with any of the judging.
So who are examples of judges? Are they from the community or from outside the community?
We have a lot of judges from within here, Toronto. We're actually getting a judge from the United States. She's related to MGR, and she's a big dancer. So,
so they're people who are qualified in the field,
correct.
and
It's
mostly
like
of Tamil background, or
mostly, except for like Western, right? For that,
because
we think
so
appropriate.
tell us more about the dances. Are they a mix of genres like hip hop and Tamil cinema?
Right, hip hop, Tamil cinema, Ghana, Bharatanatyam, classical, and then anything representing Tamil heritage like Gumiyadi or like Koladam, all sorts.
Exactly, and just to give our viewers a summary, it's a 15 to 20 minute dance routine that will involve all the categories that she listed.
Okay.
And their costumes and all the work they put into it is amazing, and the backgrounds that they also have is amazing.
Okay, and what do you think is the purpose for our second generation in having this competition?
So this competition, it's basically a platform that we're providing for Tamil youth to express themselves, their talents through dance, and it also enables them to come together and learn these skills such as team building, organizational skills, and as such, and
leadership skills.
Leadership skills, exactly. And they get to meet the other teams, and they all talk, communicate, and they all come together as one.
Yeah, even though it's a competition, there's a healthy competition, so good sportsmanship is always present.
And in light of like building leadership skills, like no doubt when you're putting something of this magnitude, you're going to have challenges and obstacles. And so what are some of the challenges you guys have faced last year and this year, and how have you overcome it?
Well, Thaalam last year was our first year, right? So the entire thing was a challenge. So, I mean, obviously we successfully overcame it. So we're more confident this year. No matter what you do, you're going to have challenges, right? Nothing in particular, but like we do have our challenges, but no point just stopping there saying, oh no, we have a hurdle. We move on.
Anything in specific that you were able to overcome? I guess, like, you know, putting together different universities, and there's reason you have different philosophies.
Right. Well, we do set general rules, and we go by the books as well. So we set, like, we have our coordinating committees and only 2 representatives from each team. So there's a clear communication going on from CTYA to the dancers.
And I understand in order to pull this off, you need sponsorships. Who are some of the people who are supporting you?
So our platinum sponsor is the Cable Shop, and we have the gold sponsor is TVI. And for our bronze sponsors, we have Ashok Sundaralingam. He's a real estate agent, as well as Public Mobile is also sponsoring us.
Okay. And in terms of developing, you know, it's one of the mandates you said for CTYA is to provide opportunities for Tamil youth to connect and build unity. Why is that important for our community?
I think it's important because as the diaspora in the international community, we need to have a uniform voice to speak for those back home. And for us as youth, we want to speak for the youth back home. And we can only do that if we're all together in a uniform voice, we can voice our concerns.
Some people might ask, you know, how is a dance competition, you know, helping our youth or people back home, right?
Right.
What would you say to that?
So one of the ways I think it helps is, first of all, it brings together unity within our youth. And through our other councils, we also host other kinds of events. And it's these kind of teams who help us out, because when we organize a competition and they're happy with it, they come back right to us and they're able to participate in other kinds of activities that we do as well. So one of our big projects 2 weeks ago, we were able to initiate something called Tamil Football Association through an organization called the Global Tamil Youth League. And the Global Tamil Youth League was formed with youth from Denmark, USA, Sweden, UK, many international countries, exactly. And on behalf of the Canadian Tamil Youth Alliance, we were able to send 4 Canadian athletes to participate in Viva World Cup. It's an international soccer
so they're on the Tamil team. There are 4 from Canada. The rest were from
UK, Sweden,
and UK.
And so how in the future do you think the organization can help promote our generation having and building a connection with back home?
So the funds that we're getting from Thaalam, we're allocating it towards initiating a recreation and innovation center here So
Okay.
within the next 1 to 2 years, we're hoping to rent a space.
So that we can contribute for each council
Uh-huh.
to begin their own workshops. So
Okay.
let's say Education and Career Development Council, we're going to have workshops such as a robotics workshop
Okay.
or science fair projects, like for them to exhibit them. And in terms of Athletics Council, we're going
So
to
this is building our capacity here.
Exactly.
Right.
In terms of building a connection with back home, is that part of the mandate? Is that
Tamil
Yes.
Nation Development Council.
Okay.
and
So
Human
what the
Rights
Tamil
Act.
Nation Development Council does is we're getting talented youth from here to submit proposals that will enable us to build a war-struck nation like ours. So we're getting proposals and we're making sure that we get some good projects for the future to implement.
Do you think it's possible for your group to have a connection with our Tamil youth in the north and east of Sri Lanka? Is it possible to do that?
You mean directly?
Yeah, directly, or even going there, or having a more direct connection?
So when it comes to those kind of international affairs,
Yeah.
Canadian Tamil Youth Alliance deals with the youth here. And
Okay.
if we were to do that kind of project, we would do it through the Global Tamil Youth League.
Okay.
So that will bring together the youth from other countries as well, so that we can get their input, get a uniform opinion on what we want to accomplish, and move forward with that.
You know, and since the end of the war, where do you think most Tamil youth of your generation, how do they feel regarding, how do they connect with back home? Or do you think as a society we're more focused on our lives here? What do you think is the case?
Well, like you said, right, after the war, identity has been a problem for us. We do not have a strong identity to withhold for ourselves. So that's exactly what we're working towards right now. In order to create an identity, you need the unity, and that's Canadian Tamil Youth Alliance's focus as well.
And by creating unity, we get to preserve our identity as Tamil people, Tamil culture, Tamil art. And through this kind of initiatives, we're able to preserve our identity and be able to form that kind of a connection with the youth back home.
But do you think there's a disconnect right now with your kids in university now with back home, and they're more focused on their lives here? Not just them, but as a society, do you think our community is we're more focused on our families, our individual careers, our lives here? Do you think that's happened as a result since the end of the war?
I wouldn't say
Do you
that
think people
we're
are connected?
fully disconnected. I wouldn't
Okay.
say that for sure, because when there's, for example, when the United Nations resolution was passed, everyone knew that happened.
Yeah.
So there may be a belief that there's a disconnect, but everyone keeps informed on what is going on.
Informed, right?
Exactly.
Informed.
But do you think that always translates into a deeper connection? It's like we know we follow the news, but is there a deeper connection in?
I think there is, but like I said, like without the media, you don't know anything, right? So with the support of media, like our event right now, Thaalam, like you're able to know about it, you're able to see why we're doing it, but not everything comes to the media in terms of what we do to help back home.
And before we finish, tell us, to change the mood, the tone. Why do a lot of university kids look forward to this? Why? What's the major reason for excitement for Thaalam?
Thaalam, it just brings so much joy. Like, I don't know, I was a dancer last year, and I enjoyed every minute of it because it was an experience like one of a kind.
It's the thrill, it's the hype, it's the expectation that, we're going to win, we're going to be the champions. That's the drive behind all the teams.
The competitive spirit?
Exactly.
Do you think that's part of being Tamil, being
Definitely.
competitive?
Proudly,
yeah,
I should say that.
Okay, thank you, Thebana and Tharmiya. We'll end off with a clip promoting the Thaalam dance competition.
We're going
Welcome back to Crossroads. Joining us in the studio is Mukundan Paramalingam from Kalvi Connections. We're having a fundraiser at the Scarborough Convention Centre this coming Saturday, June 23rd at 6 p.m. Mukundan's here to tell us about the fundraiser and its purpose. Thank you, Mukundan.
Thank you, Parthi. Thank you for having me here.
Please tell us, our audience, about Kalvi Connections. What is it about?
Kalvi is a recently established organization, Kalvi Connections, by Guna Nagalingam and Sasi Gunaratnam, two realtors from Toronto. They were doing work with the Klinchi District Trust Fund in Klinchi, and that was started by Dr. Satyamurthy in Sri Lanka. Sasi and Guna looked at that and said, yeah, we need to take this further, and that's how Kalvi Connections was formed this year. And as you said, the fundraiser is on Saturday at 5:30, and we're seeing that as an opportunity to raise awareness about the dire need for support in areas like Klinchi, and also to raise money. So we see this as a first opportunity and an opportunity we can build and grow on in the coming years.
Okay, and you explained Dr. Satyamurthy who's coming from Sri Lanka to speak at this event. To give some context to our viewers, who is Dr. Satyamurthy?
Dr. Satyamurthy, as you know, very heroic efforts in the last phase of the war. He was one of 3 doctors who refused to leave the war zone and stayed back to support people in dire need of medical attention. This is his continuing work with regards to supporting the community in the north and the east.
And how? So the fundraising is going to the Kilinochchi District Education Trust Fund. So is the idea to give loans or to give grants to students?
The Kilinochchi Kilinochchi District Trust Fund was set up as a loan system. So basically, the money that's being raised here is put to the trust fund that's supporting students, and once they complete their studies, that money is contributed back to the trust fund, whereupon more students are in the future are supported. So if, for instance, you or I were to receive it, we return the money upon the completion of the studies, and then that would go on to help other students. So the trust fund would, in essence, grow over time and help more students.
And right now, it's been more than 3 years since the end of the war. How is the situation in Kilinochchi compared to, like, say, Jaffna in the east?
The situation is dire. They say there are 2 great needs, and one is the need for medical supplies, and the other is support for education. So places like Kilinochchi and Mullaitivu, that were the hardest hit during the war, face these significant needs, and that's where Kalvi Connections is hoping to contribute. And upon supporting areas like Klinchi and Mullaitivu, we're hoping to go further as the trust fund grows to support other areas in similar needs.
So these students from Kilinochchi, are they going to be studying in universities in Sri Lanka most likely?
Throughout Sri Lanka,
yes,
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of this fundraiser, it's first annual this year. What are some of the challenges in appealing to the community?
Okay, so as a new organization, awareness is important. So we thank you for this opportunity. It's been all over Tamil print, radio, and television,
and the internet,
and the internet. So we're trying to reach out to as many people as possible at this stage, just to create awareness about what it is that this organization is doing and about the needs. And so the gala, we're hoping would establish that, as well as the folks we are speaking to and engaging directly to get involved and to support this organization directly. So we're hoping that will also increase awareness. So with each passing year, we're hoping it would grow and that the trust fund would grow and that we can support more students. But the challenge right now is getting the message out.
Getting the message out. You know, one thing that came up in our previous interview was, you know, some people feel or observe that our community, since these 3 years, we're not as connected to back home as before, you know. And one thing, you know, this year we've seen a lot of Tamil community organizations do fundraisers for causes, and much needed causes here. And do you think that's the case, that we're disconnected?
Well, we do need a sense of connection on the ground in Canada, in Ontario, in the Greater Toronto, and communities where there are a lot of Tamil people. So we have that responsibility. But as Tamil Canadians, we have a dual responsibility to support folks in the North and East, especially in areas like these where it was, you know, hard hit by the war. So yes, we need to continue the work on the ground here, but we need to go further and also bridge the gap between the rebuilding efforts there and how we can lend a hand to further education and to help students reach higher.
Yeah. And to give our viewers an idea, what will Dr. Satyamurthy address the crowd? What are the themes or the main ideas will he discuss?
I can't speak exactly for what Dr. Satyamurthy is going to speak about. I haven't had that conversation with him, but I know he's going to be appealing to folks to come out and to support this great initiative and to get on board with furthering this cause in the years to come and expanding the program.
And on that theme, in the years to come, what are the future goals of the organization? Is it, you know, you mentioned to go beyond Kilinochchi into other parts of the Northeast, but is it just education, or are there other?
Right now we're looking at it just education, and there's a misconception tuition is free in Sri Lanka, but it's the expenses. So in essence, I say to people, it's not free when you can't afford to go to school. So education is one fundamental need, and once you build on those needs and provide folks with the strength of having education by their side, we can really build a stronger community in the North and the East. So beyond that, it's going into these critical war-hit areas outside of Kilinochchi. That's our first and foremost responsibility right now. However, we're also looking to support students who are pursuing their AL, advanced level standings, or job-specific training. So those are opportunities we're looking at in the coming years.
And the Kilinochchi District Education Trust Fund, is that an independent organization? Is that connected? Is that run by the government, or?
It's an independent organization made up of former principals, teachers, and civil servants. And as I said, Dr. Satyamurthy and several other folks are involved with that very good organization.
Okay. How can our viewers learn more about the fundraiser? How can they find out where to get tickets and attend?
www.kalvi.ca.
KALVI.ca.
And the fundraiser is at the Scarborough Convention Center on Saturday at 5:30.
Okay. Any other information you'd like to provide our viewers in terms of why it's important to support this?
Just that in the coming years ahead, there's a lot of work to be done in the North and East, and education is a fundamental strength that we need on the backs of folks who are going ahead and rebuilding their lives.
And you know, a lot of people, this came up earlier, is that the idea of the disconnect with our diaspora here and there. Why is education the most important vehicle to rebuild the North and East?
Yeah, if you look at the Tamil narrative, for so long, education has been a critical component to much of the struggle that folks have been through. So the question is, why not? Why not provide support for that type of strength so that people can build on and grow from that? It's been so critically tied in with everything folks have gone through. So we need to ensure that they have those right opportunities.
You know, some people feel or observe that a lot of our brightest and best students from back home, once they get educated, they want to go abroad. Something I've seen that with some of my relatives in the last few years. They get educated and they go abroad. Do you think it's possible? And we can't fault them. You know, that's what thousands and thousands of us have done, right? do you see a hope of a time when our students, our youth in the North and East will choose to stay there, and there's the opportunity, there's economic opportunity?
Certainly. I think some folks will always. You look at any country, they will always look to go beyond and to further their opportunities. But what we have to keep in mind is when we're lending support like this, I'm sure they'll be lending the same type of support to folks who are in need. And I'm always confident that there will always be a strong group of folks who are going to remain in the North and East to support by becoming doctors, by lawyers, nurses. So there's building that needs to happen there, and I'm confident that many folks will continue to remain in that part of the country to further that.
And do you see connections being built with our community here, with our youth back home, in terms of a more direct connection, as opposed to, like, as important it is to support their education through fundraisers, but a back and forth in terms of visiting and building human relations between our youth here and our youth there?
Yeah, as the project builds, I'm confident that there's going to be more of a direct link between the folks that are getting involved here and the folks that are pursuing, the students that are pursuing the educational opportunities there. And I think there's a lot of initiatives here connecting the alumni. I'm confident that we can tie folks who are in universities there, furthering opportunities with the folks that are here. And these are steps, I believe, to get to that stage.
Okay. Again, just to recap for our audience, what are the details and where can they buy tickets?
Certainly. Please get in contact with us at www.kalvi.ca. It's at the Scarborough Convention Center, as I mentioned earlier, 5:30 on Saturday.
Saturday, June 23rd.
Saturday, June 23rd.
Right. Thank you, Muku, for taking time to come in here.
Thank you, Parthy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, dear viewers, for tuning in to CrossRoads on TVI. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks. God bless all the fathers today. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Parthy.